Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Average Nightcasts with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended Clip.
Welcome to Extended Clip. It is episode 347, and I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And joining us, sporting the claw, is Rob Franco.
Hello.
Now, this is kind of a visual gag for an audio medium, so I think our listeners do deserve to know that for each of these Halloween episodes, Rob has come in costume, and this week, thematically appropriate is as Freddy Krueger. What were the other costumes for the listeners?
So the first one, I Dracula teeth in a cape. And then the second one, I did a Ghostface mask, but not regular Ghostface. High Ghostface from Scary Movie 1.
One of the great scenes in either Scream or Scary Movie franchise.
Yes. But unfortunately, now I'm out of costumes. And I don't know if the gag is worth spending more money at my local Spirit of Halloween. Yeah. So...
You keep that place afloat, you know?
Yeah, I really do. So.
I was expecting, because you said the final one. I'm expecting like a full Terrifier.
No, the final one was the Scary Movie.
Oh,
mask.
really? Yeah. Okay.
That was intended to be the last one, and then I was like, oh no, that fits for Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Why don't you give a little claw on the mic there for the audio?
Can you hear that?
Doesn't really translate.
It doesn't really come through. Yeah, I'll add some sound effects in post. I'll Foley that in. You know,
worth a shot.
What are the scenes like at your local Spirit Halloween lately? Early October.
I don't know. I had to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I was there for about 30 minutes. I was like, I need to go.
30 minutes is a long time to spend in Spirit.
You get lost in there.
Yeah.
Spirit is kind of... There's like too many people there at all times. Like,
yeah.
I'm a little scared.
It is both like the most populated place and like a ghost town. It's it's a weird in between. Mm-hmm. It's like a strip club during the day. It's scary.
I was at work the other day, and I saw someone coming in, and I was like, oh, they're wearing a Spirit Halloween shirt. And then she came in, and I got a better look, and it was a shirt that said, it with the key disgusting word here in the Spirit Halloween font, it said, I only squirt on Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And it was like disguised
How
as
crass.
a Spirit Halloween store t-shirt. And... I had the right mind to throw her out of the store.
Adam, you have to leave.
There are kids in here.
Yeah, I should know about that.
There are kids in here. We are also playing a VHS of Blackula, but there are kids in here too. So
Blackula didn't do any squirting, as far as I'm aware.
Well, he didn't. But who knows about his victims?
Yeah, there you go. Hey now.
So today, as demonstrated by Rob's glove, we are talking about our old friend, Fred Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, the 1987 film by Chuck Russell. Now, have you guys all seen this one before?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
JT,
No,
was this your first
my
time?
first
Had you
time.
seen any of the other Nightmare sequels?
I've only seen the new Nightmare that we covered on the
Best
pod.
one. That's the best one.
That is a great one.
yeah.
But so you hadn't seen number 2 that
No.
kind of set this one up metatextually, at least, not in actual story.
No, I thought about throwing it on last night, but I didn't have time. I was too tired. But I want to go back to it. The Nightmare on Elm Street movies seem to have, at least just like checking Letterboxd mutuals ratings, there's a pretty high batting average there. They all seem great, and it's just I don't know, you're always guaranteed like some fun practical dream like whimsy and effects with Freddy movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what puts these Nightmare movies at a higher level than any of the other slasher franchises. And I mean, not like, there's individual examples to counteract that. Of course, we just talked about Season of the Witch, which is like probably my favorite sequel in any of these slasher franchises. But there's a floor, a pretty high floor in Nightmare on Elm Street between the character of Freddy and the general dream conceit, where what Wes Craven established in the first one was, a baseline of most of the movie being a surreal dreamscape. And so it lends itself to really out there production design and inventive camera work and a lot of like subjectivity and all subjectivity in the minds of teenagers too. So you're going to have a lot of that like weird lust and immaturity and rock and roll spirit through a lot of these movies. And I just really love that about this series, is that like no matter how dry they get by like the fourth and fifth ones, maybe there's always just like a baseline of surrealism and dreamlike imagery that you're not gonna get in, I don't know, let's say a later day Friday the 13th movie, or H2O Halloween 20 years later or something like that.
Yeah, no, Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite horror series of all like the big major ones, if I had to choose. And for a lot of the reasons you're saying, Eddie, like just the dream logic allows it to go a lot of interesting places. And I don't know, I feel like, not that I get scared by horror movies, you know what I mean? But it is like the scariest conceit. Your internal life is like a place you can escape, no matter how bad your surroundings are. But it's like Freddy violates that, and he violates your dreams. Like, I don't know, it's kind of like a place, you usually go to escape, and, here's the product of 100 evil men's semen, Freddy Krueger, as we learn in this movie. So I don't know, I've always thought it allowed for a lot of fun gags.
Yeah, no, I forgot that this is the one where you learn that side of the origin story. I think it's the next one where they change it a little bit to say, oh, he wasn't just a child killer, he was a child molester.
Yeah.
I think number 4...
They start changing it from child murderer to child molester.
That's when it is the fourth or the fifth one, because I know that is like canon, is that Freddy was
Sounds like some liberal fake news bullshit.
All he did was kill them.
Story.
Yeah. All he did was kill them. We didn't say he was a pervert.
Well, I was going to say with Salem's Lot, I was commenting like, oh, this is like, very heavy pedophilic vibes. And it's kind of interesting. Like, even though Freddy, we see him kill children, that like, I never really associated with like sexual predator type stuff,
But he is keeping them all in his lair and in his belly also, as we see later on in this. Kind of the dark demonic version of fat bastards get in my belly.
Get in my belly, bitch.
Exactly. So we are talking about the third one, and for a little backstory here, JT doesn't know about the second one. The second one was done completely without Wes Craven, who, much like a lot of the rest of the world at the time, disliked the direction of the second one, but it has taken on quite a cult standing through the queer reading of the movie, because the second one is, colloquially referred to as the gay one of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where, it's all about like the suppression of the homoerotic desires of the final boy rather than the final girl of the usual one, but it's still playing off the original one's conceit that it shares with so many slasher movies of basically kids getting punished for having sex and being promiscuous. It just kind of twists the knife a little bit and makes it a very sad queer horror story. But then in the third one, Wes Craven comes back and he's like, all right, let's take it back to Dreamland. Enough with those themes. But here he enlists hero of the podcast, Bruce Wagner, to write the original draft of this one. We had talked about Maps to the Stars a while back, and Malcolm and I have both seen and really loved Wild Palms, another Bruce Wagner invention. And his constant scathing satire of Hollywood basically being a child-killing / molesting machine in like sacrificial rituals running throughout Hollywood is deeply felt in this one as well, in a sense. And just like even in this one, it's just like the facile nature of the Hollywood dream of kids, and also just the good like banter that he creates between young characters. I feel like it's very just like off-putting and reminds me a lot of reading Bret Easton Ellis as well. I feel like the way Bruce Wagner writes young characters is very similar to Less Than Zero or something like that. But rounding out the all-star cast here, we also have Angelo Badalamenti doing the score for this one. And yeah, it's not like he's going full David Lynch score mode, but there are some really nice flourishes in here that separate it from the rest of the Nightmare scores, in my opinion. Also, writing credit on this one, revising Wagner's original draft, is Frank Darabont, the guy who directed like all of the biggest Stephen King adaptations, like Shawshank and Green Mile. Well, I say biggest, but those two. The biggest cable rerun Stephen King adaptation.
The Mist had some buzz.
Exactly. Darabont heads were eating with that one, but I feel like that's kind of the meeting in the middle that this movie finds us, because you can find many people involved in the production that said the original draft was a lot more explicit, a lot darker, and even more surreal. And then you could tell Darabont kind of made it a little more mainstream friendly, as he is to do, but that's the tension we always find in horror movies.
Was the humor still there in like the original draft?
I believe so, yeah, because Wagner is such a funny writer. Like a lot of this stuff, specifically the Dick Cavett kill, feels just like right out of the Bruce Wagner playbook.
Yeah,
Sure.
This should be a new segment on the extended clip. Light research. I did some very light research, and I found that John Saxon and Robert Englund also submitted a draft.
I read that as well, yeah.
For the wiki page.
And these are Nancy's dad and, of course, Fred Krueger himself, the actors.
Yeah, and that somehow intertwined like Charles Manson and that type of stuff.
Damn.
Which it does feel kind of that isn't kind of like in the spirit of Wagner.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think it ended up really influencing the final script too hard. But I just find it funny that I feel like there was probably warring factions for like control over this movie, being like Saxon's like, maybe you could, the dad could be a little bit more involved in the movie instead of just being in the last 10 minutes.
When you say he submitted like his own take, I was like, okay, 20 minutes, I'm in the bar, I'm drinking, just
like
John.
It's more like
and you know what?
Halloween
I would love that if there was like a 20-minute sequence of just John Saxon at the bar, like playing darts, hustling pool.
Yeah,
because we see him at his local haunt, much like Tom Atkins has.
He's still
his
wearing
Halloween
his sheriff.
3.
He's still wearing his.
That's
security.
it's a security jacket.
Yeah.
Because like all disgraced cops, he became a security guard.
Fucking Richard Jewell.
Exactly. Well, that one wasn't so disgraced. He's a hero.
You're right.
Yeah, don't be like fucking Olivia Wilde, dude. What the fuck?
I would never.
Bringing back 2018 beef. 7 years later, we're still mad about comments made about Richard Jewell.
We took them very personally.
He was
for
a beautiful
some reason.
man and a hero.
Yeah.
And he was not gay.
That too.
And he was not gay.
They had to make that clear. But anyway, the general conceit of this movie is that, well, Freddy's back, as he always is in
It's
these
Freddy.
movies.
He's real.
Yeah. But rather than kids getting punished for sexual promiscuity and getting killed by Freddy in their dreams because of it, this time the metaphor really turns into the epidemic of teen suicide. And this is a movie that posits Freddy as something of a shared delusion among suicidal teens who all end up at the same hospital. Now, rounding out, we talked about the all-star behind-the-scenes crew on this one. You also have a total all-star cast in this one, probably the most stacked cast in any slasher sequel, where you have Craig Wasson, a.k.a. the Bill Maher doppelganger
I will
Body
be
Double.
referring to him all episode as Dr. Bill Maher. Just so you guys know.
Dr. Random.
Oh, what's Freddy Krueger, a Republican? You also have at the hospital Lawrence Fishburne in his Larry Fishburne era as one of the nurses. Heather Langenkamp as Nancy returns in this one, and the final girl, the main girl who we stick with throughout this movie, is played by a young Patricia Arquette. And so you get a lot of recurring, relationships of film history in this, of course, with Patricia Arquette being scored by Angelo Badalamenti like she would later on in Lost Highway. And, it's just so many great connections to be made through this movie. But most of this movie takes place at this hospital where Freddy is suiciding these kids one by one, picking them off, and they have to team up using Patricia Patricia Arquette's basically superpower of being able to drag people into her dreams to defeat him in her dream as the titular dream warriors. Also, of course, as we mentioned earlier, we have John Saxon returning later on in the movie as Nancy's father. This is definitely my favorite of the Nightmare sequels that I've seen. I love New Nightmare as well for its metatextual conceit, but this one is just like so fun and really steps it up a level in terms of just like all of the surrealist imaginings of all of these kills, and it's a very fun kind of campy teen concept of like each of them having their own distinct little personalities and dream worlds that they inhabit, but it's simultaneously like campy and goofy and pretty sad like the second one too. It is a movie about teen suicide.
Yeah, what I found very interesting about this one, with given like the teen rehab, it's not really rehab, but it's like kind of like everyone's like suicide. So, there's some people who like cut themselves, some people who are like drug addicts, some people, someone in a wheelchair, and I feel like, with a lot of these slasher sequels, the obvious setup, it's like, oh, we have a bunch of teens that are, they're like partying and like doing drugs, and we pick them off one by one. Whereas this one, like, I feel like it's much more like sympathetic towards these characters and like is about, troubled teens and stuff like that. And but at the same time, it never goes too far in that direction. They're not so sacred that they can't be killed in a funny way.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate that balance of kind of like giving some sympathy towards these kids and then setting them up for some pretty brutal kill. And every single one of the kills is like painstakingly like brutal and like very specific, and I enjoy that very much.
It is another Believe Children Halloween classic.
Yes.
And
I think the horror genre has to be the deepest in the Believe Children canon.
Exactly. And yeah, no, I love what Malcolm is saying, and I feel like it is something like akin to Halloween 3, where it's just like a very nice kind of balance there with like having something. I mean, this is, I think, a little bit more sensitive and like more thought out and like an emotional way here, where it's just like, I don't know, detailing like the pains of youth, like that are pretty severe. But again, it's like balancing things where it's going in like a more like serious, intense direction with I don't know, just very funny, like cynical moments where like honestly, I think my favorite one is just the wheelchair boy that in his dreams he's
master wizard.
He's a master wizard. And then you get to play,
and he can walk.
And, yeah,
he can walk,
he's a walking wizard. And they play that like where he gets this very sincere moment where like the score swells. He gets his like magician's robe to like cast a spell on Freddy. And of course that's not like, there is no Freddy like movie where that is possibly going to work, and then is just immediately fucking stabbed and killed afterwards.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
In my dreams, I can walk. My legs are strong. In my dreams, I am the wizard master.
I think one of the strengths of Badalamenti's score in here is the total like fake out wholesome moments, because he has you believe them like it's going to be like, oh, we actually are coming around to the side of these teens. They're going to make it, and it happens multiple times where you're faked out to thinking that the teens are going to win, especially toward the end in that third act when they're all together, destroying that hall of Freddy mirrors. And it's just like the schmaltziest music ever, only to be undercut by Freddy once again. I just love the way Badalamenti's score goes back and forth so harsh in this one.
Yeah, I feel like it's playing with the aspect of what I was talking about, where it's like you do feel genuine sympathy for them, and like in the score it really reflects that and it really like drives that home. But then yeah, of course, it makes the Freddy kill even sweeter.
It also makes it feel like Freddy himself is controlling not just the score, but like the tone of the movie.
Totally.
Like he's just like, all right, I'll let these little bitches have their fun.
It's also like, it's the fact that we have this this like community of kids and we all like them, it makes it all the more painful because usually in a horror movie like this, like one kid's the shithead and you're like, oh good, I've been waiting for that, but they're all just kids and they're like you feel bad for them, all of them. You have empathy for all of them. And the fact that they're all working together and they're all on the same page, it really feels like a team thing, so that when one person on the team gets got, it's painful.
I wanted to remark upon the opening, which has one of the best in the series methods of staying awake.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously, you can't fall asleep, so everyone has these inventive ways of staying awake, whether they're like rigging alarm clocks or anything like that. This one, you have Patricia Arquette taking spoonfuls of instant coffee in her mouth and swishing them around with Diet Coke.
It's a very Eddie move.
Yeah, absolutely. It is right up my alley. Since the first time I saw this, I've never identified with a character more.
That's me.
Little did she know that the coffee Coke would be invented years later to save her from all that.
Tell me, if she had the business mind like us, she could have patented that and made millions.
Coffee
and
Coke
then bought and
weirdly
sold
seems
Freddy.
like a product they would have rolled out in the 80s.
True,
like when
yeah.
they were rolling out all like the new Coke and
Yeah.
like Pepsi Clear and like all these like weird soda variants in the 80s. But that's when you get another recurring thing throughout this series, the fake out of thinking that you're awake and outside of the dream when you're not, after she has her first Freddy nightmare. And also just the logic of that is so cool, where she's like building the Freddy house diorama style with popsicle sticks and stuff like that, and then in her dream gets sucked into it, but then when she wakes up she thinks she's good, but she's not, because Freddy is inside the sink. And that's when you get your first dose of like hefty stop motion claymation type effects in this movie that kind of define the special effects in this movie. And I really love it. Like it's kind of goofy, but between the stop motion sink hands and the clay skeleton later on, like there's so many fun effects,
and
like
it looks so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those like cross turn sink handles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like four little prongs, and then it wraps around her wrist,
Yeah.
and she pulls it out, and then it's like a weird bony stick, and it comes and cuts her wrist.
Yeah.
And it just looks so good and so imaginative.
I can't remember the kills in the second one. Like, I can't remember if they were... Because this is like... The kills in this are very creative. Like, there's a lot of creativity put into every single one of them. And I feel like a common theme is like the anthropomorphizing. You know what I mean? Like, turning objects... Like, him like becoming like a sink, and like the hand coming out of the sink. Like, there's a lot of that. And it's just I don't know. There's just a lot of ways you could go with that. And... The movie goes a lot of ways.
Doesn't he become a pizza in the second one at one
Yeah,
point?
yeah. There's, I think there's some crazy.
that.
I'm trying to remember the. Yeah, there's some pretty. I think
And
there are
there's
some.
one
pretty-
in the showers.
The
in the
shower
second one
one's
that's
crazy.
really good
In the
too.
in the first one, he's more like doing people, right?
Yeah,
and then as the series progresses,
Freddy
he's
becoming a
doing, like,
urinal and he
objects.
bites your dick off.
I think like as goofy as he gets in the first one is probably just becoming the car at the end, that jump scare at the very end, which I love him being
Hack
a car.
bit. He really improved on his material.
Exactly. And speaking of, this is the one where Freddy does become like the stand-up comedian Freddy, where he's just like dropping one-liners before all of his kills. and
He
stuff.
says bitch a lot in
Yeah.
this
Oh
one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Come and get me, bitch.
Come and get me, bitch.
Yeah, he even writes out "Come and get me,
Yeah,
bitch."
that's some crazy imagery.
So I've had trouble with this series like all throughout since I've been watching them. I think the first one is really good, but I have problems with like the actual logic of. I know dreams shouldn't have logic,
sure.
shouldn't matter, but there are sometimes when I think it cheats the quote-unquote rules in a way that bothers me. But I think because they get so, for lack of a better term, goofy as the series goes on, to me that's what informs the franchise and makes it stand out and makes me appreciate it and makes it fun for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it becomes so much more about like the carnival funhouse type ride that you're going on through all of these dreamscapes than it does about like, the first one has a lot of the kids trying to figure out the rules of Freddy's dreams. And I love that first one. But yeah, I don't think you spend much time on figuring out rules after that. And that's definitely for the better.
This one with the teen rehab facility aspect, like it lends like a darkness to those kills that are still funny, but they're also like rooted in like, it's some pretty nasty stuff. You could say that about a lot of them, but I feel like the fourth and fifth one like really lean into like the zaniness and like the goofiness, where this one kind of I feel like is teetering on a line here.
Yeah, it's in between. Like Freddy himself is funny in this, but the concept of the movie is very dark.
Yeah. And like some of the kills, like I feel like since they're like I said this before, but like they really, I feel like with the kills here, like it's really like Freddy's being super invasive with these dreams, like butting in on like sexual dreams and stuff like that. Like that's tough.
Or the drug addiction kill probably is the meanest, most mean-spirited one.
Yeah.
Want to get high?
I mean, that poor girl who's in the facility instead of going to juvie, basically because she was caught doing drugs and has track marks on her arms and stuff. Like that's probably the saddest character in here because she even gets it from like the male nurse who's working the night shift. He's just like, hey, you want to get high with me? Like it's just like it's so sad that this like 30-year-old male nurse is creeping on this like 16-year-old former junkie. You know?
And like he doesn't really get that classic. He doesn't get killed, right? You don't really see him.
No,
he's just there, so it is just like an ounce of sleaze for you.
Yeah. I had a memory of Lawrence Fishburne getting killed. From the first, I thought he got killed. I don't know why. And as my father calls him, Leon Fishbone.
Wow.
Yeah. Not sure why, but okay. Speaking of his character, I love his theory in the beginning when he's just like, yeah, these kids are all having this group psychosis because their parents all did acid in the 60s and they have fucked up chromosomes.
He just really gets to be a super friendly nurse guy in this. Like, there's nothing really much to him. It's just that he's, taking care of the kids. It's
he's like kind of the best character because he does have compassion for them, and like when they start dying, he's like, I don't want to lose my kids. Like he really cares for them and has a good rapport with them. It's nice to see.
Whereas like Craig Wasson does have like a little, like maybe it's just we're carrying it over from watching Body Double, but there's like his interest in Nancy does feel very like a little bit sleazy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the moment where he starts to believe Nancy about the Freddy Krueger lore, because if you don't know, Nancy is in this movie as like a hotshot grad student who's doing sleep studies because she was the final girl from the first movie, and no one wants to, take her seriously until she has a nice romantic dinner with Craig Wasson, and they're framed by these Venetian blinds and the crackling fireplace, and he's like, I think you're right about this Freddy Krueger guy. And so apparently there's a deleted scene of them making out.
Hell yeah.
Which Craig Wasson described in an interview as, it was a scene so hot that it melted the camera lens.
All right, Craig, come on, man.
Just him pleading, like, "Oh, we gotta film this. Get it? Like, I think it would make sense. No, it needs to be in there. You gotta.
This needs.
You gotta.
He really
this.
is just the guy from Body Double.
It's like, we need a passionate adult love scene between these two. They have nowhere to go to. Like, it just really makes sense within the context of the story. They turn into each other. Yeah.
I would say the most like signature Bruce Wagner aspect of this is the character of Jennifer, who is one of the kids in the institution. And when she says that she wants to get out of there and go to Los Angeles to become a star, the foul-mouthed kid says, lifestyles of the rich and psychotic, which is straight out of Maps to the Stars / Wild Palms for sure. But her kill is my favorite one probably in the movie, where, of course, Lawrence Fishburne's empathy for the kid gets into deeper trouble there
Yeah.
because he comes in to turn off the TV and she pleads with him to stop, and he's like, all right, I'll let you watch TV. That is when we see the TV turn to the Dick Cavett show, where he is interviewing Zsa Gabor, and then Dick Cavett becomes Freddy and slashes her up. And that is a real reaction from Zsa Gabor, too, who did not know anything about Freddy Krueger.
She just thought she was going on Dick Cavett.
Yeah, like seriously, she thought she was just like doing a background gag for some show, like didn't realize she was getting killed and everything. And it's a pure like stunt casting and stunt production method.
That's
there
hilarious.
For that kill, where Jennifer then gets her face impaled into the TV because Freddy becomes the TV. And Freddy becoming the TV is also like, you could read into that pretty symbolically, of course, with her dreams of being on TV.
Yeah.
But also it's just awesome.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
But really quick, one of the things I think is so beautiful about this moment is that it doesn't go into the Dick Cavett show. It doesn't become the full frame of the screen. It's still framed by the TV.
Exactly.
It has that low resolution of the TV. So when you see Dick Cavett on, it looks like she's watching Dick Cavett killing Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yeah. No, I love that aspect of it because you're also sticking with the subjectivity of Jennifer. You're not going into that world of the TV. You're just like still not sure if it's a dream because you're not inside that crazy world. You're just seeing a TV mounted on a wall of a hospital.
I love the story of the stunt casting and stunt production because that's the Hollywood cruelty that Wagner runs on. You know what I mean? And also just I really like that scene too. Like even some of the small details, like I love when she's watching the TV, she lights up a nice cigarette butt and then burns her hand. Like that's so whoever wrote this has definitely been to rehab before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
lighting up other people's butts.
That's how she's keeping herself up. Is she's putting she lost her cigarette privileges earlier because she was burning herself to stay up, and now we realize, oh, that's why you were burning yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's just like it's sick that in teen rehab you could like smoke cigarettes and stuff like it's like real rehab. You know?
Exactly.
Pretty sick.
The other notable kill from the first half of this movie is, of course, the puppet one, which is the nastiest one for sure in this movie, where the kid who is the sleepwalker has some puppets in his room, and you get a great special effects shot of Freddy becoming a puppet at first, and then just, lingering over the kid's bed and just taking out the kid's like arteries basically and using them as a classic puppeteer would as he's just getting dragged through this hospital and goes to the top of a clock tower and jumps off it. But the way that it's shown is this amazing special effects, like composite shot of Freddy in the sky slicing the puppet strings with his claw. And it's just such a brutal, nasty kill that all of the other kids have to watch too, which is just horrifying. Like that's the best kill on like a horrifying, like horror and sadness level. It's just my favorite one is the TV one because it's just so funny.
Of course. But you also have that amazing, probably the most grotesque image in the whole movie is there's a close-up on his foot as he's being pulled. And you see the ligaments come from the bridge of his foot, this red rope, and it looks so good. It looks incredible. No,
the nastiness of like the split arm veins, just like some crazy imagery, because it's like obviously mimicking like cutting and whatnot, like and also I feel like I have this noted down. I can't quite remember, but I think it's in the first half of the movie. We also get like a slug Freddy, like a
when he's like the worm,
he's a snake worm,
and he's just like eating Patricia Arquette, just like straight up. It's pretty funny. Like I feel like you don't see that like in a lot of Freddy. He's trying to like kill people. This one, he's just straight.
He's
up,
having fun with it.
He's just straight up munching her, just straight up, just eating her.
He has a love for the game.
I love how after those initial kills and once Craig Wasson takes it seriously, they have that unofficial group meeting where everyone's dream powers are revealed, and it's so hilariously uneven where it's like the handicapped kid is able to walk in his dream and Patricia Arquette is able to do a backflip.
Yeah,
Parkour.
that is the funniest one. What can you do? She just does a handspring. Wow, you could probably do that in real life, Patricia.
Yeah.
I wish
and
there-
the superpower of the mute kid is not that he could talk, but that he could fuck the nurse.
Which, come on, that's a classic teenage fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously goes awry for him as you get the kind of, oh, Freddy, what horror boobs you have moment.
That's the most, I feel like, Freddy, you're talking about earlier, like the like with the comparison to Salem's Lot veering into pedophilia. There's like that happens, I feel like, a lot in Nightmare on Elm Street stuff where you get the sexy Freddy fake out where it's just like, oh man, I'm dreaming about a hot babe, and then it's a dead child killer.
So I watched this literally yesterday, but I can't even remember. Is there a shot with Freddy where he has big tits?
No, it just cuts really fast.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. It cuts from the girl to... And also, there's a shot from behind where Freddy's face was already revealed, but it has the body of the woman. You just never actually see Freddy's face on the woman's body. That would be too raw. Yeah.
People are like, damn, Freddy's kind of hot. Like
Freddy's
people...
stacked.
Yeah. I mean, the details in that one too are pretty disturbing. Where tongue-tied, he gets tongue-tied, and it all stems from like a makeout session where it's like their tongues become like one, and they're they're basically both deep throating a tongue or whatever, and then
she's shooting the tongue out of her throat like a gun.
Yeah, it's like, and then he gets tied up to the bed with separate tongues, and then the bed drops out, and it's like an entryway to like hell or Freddy's house or whatever. It's it's some good stuff. And I feel like we're talking about the kills obviously because I feel like the way the movie's written is like, it's like you go from kill to kill basically.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
like especially with the setup of like these teens and like their different like dream quirks, and I don't know, I feel like in this one there's just a real strong recognition in the plot structure where it's like there has to be a kill like every 10 minutes.
They know
or
what
so.
the audience is paying for.
But it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's done well, because there's definitely a lot of horror movies that recognize that, that's what people want, and they never quite find the balance, whereas this one, I feel like, does it at like a very good pace.
So then Craig Wasson goes and gets some exposition dumped on him by a nun who keeps disappearing. Spoiler alert, it's Freddy's mom as a ghost. But he learns the origin that Freddy was conceived by his mom getting raped by 100 inmates of the insane asylum, which is such a cartoonishly ridiculous thing. Like, I mean, it's a bit much, but
it's a lot.
He's the bastard son of 100 men.
Exactly, but he learns the important part that he has to be buried in holy ground to finish the job. So they go to the bar and find John Saxon, and that leads us to the third act where it's split between the adults and the kids. The adults are scavenging for skeleton bones, and the kids are being the dream warriors. And I like that intercutting a lot. It leaves a lot of room for both sides to get both serious and goofy, and it's a fun way to kind of like pick up the pace where each kid gets their little showdown with Freddy, and then they all reunite, and then also John Saxon and Craig Wasson in the scrapyard get to fight the Freddy skeleton, and that skeleton fight rules.
I also love that we're introduced to John Saxon. He's getting loaded by himself at the bar, and then Dr. Bill Maher is like, okay, we got to find the remains. And he's like, you drive. John Saxon is the one driving. And you would think he'd be like, oh, I can take it. Just tell me where to go. Tell me when to take a left. But no, he's like, John, you got it.
I don't think movies recognized the danger of drunk driving until like the 90s, probably.
Yeah.
There's the rare thing like Abel Ferraro's The Gladiator, which is basically an anti-drunk driving PSA. But for the most part, it's normal. I mean, like even teenagers are doing it in movies up until the 90s,
I mean,
sure.
They had to drive to get there.
They had to drive. You got to drive. That's the thing they don't.
They
tell
didn't
you.
have Uber back then.
That's the thing about drunk driving that they don't tell you is you got to drive.
I mean, if bars didn't really want people to drunk drive, they wouldn't have parking lots.
I mean, it's more irresponsible to not bury Freddy's skeleton than it is to drunk drive. So
True, you got to weigh out your options, and he's
So-
got to focus. Like he could drive, yes, but he's got to focus on the
It
logistics.
is interesting that they kind of
skeleton
start
shit.
to incorporate vampire rules
Yeah.
in this movie by like the holy water, and he steals a cross from a church. And he's like, hey, here's my license. I'll come back for
That
it.
was really funny. It kind of just shows like just the slightly offness of any Craig Wasson character. Is I'll give you my ID. It's like he's like he won't even give him like some money. It's like I'll come back and get it. Retrieve my IDs. Proving I'm not stealing the cross. I don't know. It's just kind of weird logic. But
It is the one thing that's always given me pause about this movie because I feel like it's kind of you could say that a lot of the series is a reaction to the kind of conservatively like punitive horror movies of the 80s, but in this one it's just like Christianity literally kills Freddy.
Well, and another great image is to get the holy water. He steals a whiskey bottle out of John Saxon's car, dumps it out, and then fills the whiskey bottle with the holy water, which is just a great image.
That is fantastic when he's just dunking the whiskey in the holy water tub, And what is that? Maybe one of our Catholic listeners or Catholic / non-Jewish co-hosts can let me know. What's the thing about covering the holy water bottle with your thumb and like spritzing it like that? Can't you just pour it like a normal person?
It's probably to conserve it,
I guess
no?
I guess conserve it. I don't
He's
know
got
if
the whole flask full.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It is
Maybe
like
you only need a drop, a dabble do ya.
It's
does,
very
yeah.
powerful.
You're saving it for
We
later.
wouldn't know, but it's very powerful.
When at Catholic masses, they're pretty liberal with it. Where I guess I haven't been to mass in a while. I feel like they stopped doing this.
You
though,
gotta go.
Where like they'll like dip like palm fronds or whatever and like spray
That's
people
kinda
with
sick.
water. Yeah, it's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
sick.
I remember during
Splash
COVID when
zone.
they were doing the squirt gun version of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the only time I've ever been beckoned by the aesthetics of Catholicism was when I saw the Pope squirt gun people.
That's one thing people don't know about Catholicism. Like you got to show up early to get the good seat, so you're in the splash zone, much like SeaWorld.
Yeah, the Waterworld show at Universal. You
Yeah,
know?
and like you're not as blessed if you don't get the good seats. So it's kind of a real conundrum. Yeah.
Yeah, those people like that camp out in front of the New Beverly at 4:30. They're blessed. They are the holy people of the. Because New Beverly, the people doing the intro will be like, "This is a church of cinema," and those people in the front row, they're in the splash zone for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. In my opinion, they should be going to goddamn church, but instead. But yeah.
There he goes, Catholic Malcolm.
Catholic Malcolm. Yeah, Father Malcolm.
Mister, I haven't been to mass in a while. Why don't you take
Yeah,
some
how
of your
long's
own
that
medicine?
while, buddy?
Like 3 years.
You're going to hell.
Does Christmas and Easter even count? You know what I mean?
I
don't know.
that's more than I would ever do. So
Yeah.
if I were
In fact, I don't go home for Easter, so I don't know what I'm talking about Easter Mass for.
Easter Mass.
Oh yeah, I got to take off work. I got to start taking off work for Easter. That's got to be like use all the Catholic holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm not religious. I just really like candy.
Yeah. I really like Peter Rabbit, you know, the Easter Bunny.
That's why the Catholics are so anti-Halloween. It's not like a Satanist thing. They're just like, look, we already have a candy holiday.
That is
you
true.
know?
Halloween kind of stole Easter's thunder. You know what I mean?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Because kids would be excited about Easter candy, but now they're like, oh, Halloween's where it's at, and I get to dress up as child rapist. You know what I mean? Freddy Krueger. I can't wait to dress up as child killers for Halloween. That's what kids like to do, dumbasses.
A lot of telling on yourself there, Malcolm.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like more of a you thing.
Yeah, come on.
Rob literally has a pedophile claw on him right now, the Freddy claw.
That's only according to the fourth
I'm
movie.
anti-Halloween. I'm like going so religious where I'm like, we got to take off the satanic
Oh,
costumes.
it's all about believe children. How about
Halloween
believe
is
Freddy?
for
And he only
pretending
killed
to be a
them.
pedophile.
He only killed them.
Freddy's a burn victim, all right?
Yeah.
Like he's also a persecuted person. He's also one of the downtrodden, the disenfranchised. Burn victims, now this is turning into a hashtag believe the burn victim podcast.
I guess it's either or. You can't believe everyone, right?
Exactly. Who are you gonna
Somebody's
believe?
lying.
I do believe. I'm hashtag believe everybody.
Believe everybody.
There might be some contradicting stuff going on, but I don't care. I just believe everybody.
I'm gushing with belief, overflowing with belief right now.
So after every kid gets their little like spotlight, one-on-one showdown with Freddy, which I think the funniest one, and the saddest one at the same time is, as we said, Taryn, the former drug addict, where her world, like her fantasy is just being like a cool rocker with knives,
and a mohawk.
And a mohawk.
Yeah,
that's
she
Going to a
goes-
sleazy bar.
Her great line is, so they cut to her, they go, "What are you in your dream, Taryn?" And then the reveal of her leather jacket and her mohawk. She goes, "In my dreams, I'm beautiful." And pause, and then she goes, "And bad." And then she pulls out the double switchblades, and they're all like, "Yeah!" Everyone's like, you go, girl.
It was a hard gesture, You'd have to give her some props in the rehab.
The 80s were a weird time, People thought that was beautiful. People thought like a 4-foot tall mohawk was like the hottest thing a girl or boy could have.
She's so punk rock. Oh my god.
Oh god, I bet she listens to the Ramones. But yeah, I like the environment just being like the back alley of a bar. Like for her being a former junkie, like in my dreams, I can hang out in the back alley of a bar and not be tempted by drugs.
Yeah.
But that is when Freddy's fingers turn into needles and he says,
Let's get high.
hilarious and just demonically
Really sad.
dark.
And
Like,
then
it's
also
so
her
mean.
track marks turn into like little faces.
They're hungry. She's
Yeah.
hungry for that smack. That dog food.
Exactly. But after each of these kids gets their little one-on-one moment, they're lured into Freddy's like Argento-esque steamy red lair. That I really love the set design here. It's just so over-the-top expressive, and you have the kid from earlier, the tongue-tied boy, standing over a flaming pit, and it's really awesome where they're intercutting the two fights in Freddy's lair and in the scrapyard there, and the end of it is just when the mute kid speaks, because it turns out his superpower in his dreams was not just having sex with nurses, but being able to talk. And that's, it's a little corny, but what do you expect? That's like it's what the whole movie is setting up, is that these things that these kids have as shortcomings are going to be what they use to overcome their demons.
And he breaks the mirrors, right? That's the guy who breaks
because
the
they're
mirrors
like in
through
the
his
hall of
vocals.
mirrors.
Supersonic speech.
Exactly. Yeah, and I do love the imagery of that hall of Freddy mirrors.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
So now cut back to John Saxon and Dr. Bill Maher. They're trying to bury the remains of Freddy. And here is an issue I do have with the dream logic in this movie is the skeleton pops up and they're not dreaming. So it's like how does that work? But it reminds me of one of my favorite Simpsons jokes from the Nightmare on Elm Street homage that they do, where groundskeeper Willie is killing the children, and they cut to like the flashback of what happened. He's on fire and he becomes a skeleton, and he says he's going to curse all the kids, and Chief Wiggum goes, "Oh yeah, how you gonna do it? Skeleton powers?" and I was watching. I was like, "Oh, dude, he's doing the skeleton powers."
They're real.
They're real.
It is. I feel like the ending is maybe the weakest aspect of this movie. Wasson just kind of waking up. Oh yeah, and like pouring the holy water on Freddy. It's like kind of funny, and then like since it's a sequel, there's no like real conclusion. I guess that other than that, like Nancy and her dad die basically to sacrifice for the kids, right? And then we see Wasson, Dr. Bill Maher asleep on the bed, and like the diorama lights up. No, and there's going to be a fourth one. Don't worry.
John Saxon dying via skeleton impalement is pretty sick, though.
That's
and
great.
I
I
love
like the skeleton
in the junkyard
fight. Yeah.
where like Freddy is able to control the electricity of all the cars and stuff like that. You just have like the lights turning on and off and honking, and the cars like slightly wriggling around and stuff like that before Saxon gets impaled. It's pretty sick. I mean, this is a movie that like the ideas of it don't go all that deep. Like it's not like the densest text ever, but it leaves enough on the table for you to take those ideas and run with them and go deeper with them. And it just presents so many fantastic surreal realist images and also has so many just like straight up 80s genre pleasures in it that I just can't help but love it, you know, even if the ending is just like way too neatly tied up through the powers of Christianity.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes that's what you got to do to placate a mainstream audience. You got to be like, all right, this movie isn't full Satanist, you know. So, Christianity does win in the end, and so many movies do show that anyway. And it's like you just got to accept it sometimes. That's the only way you're going to get a fourth one, I guess.
Yeah.
They do return to the scrapyard in the fourth one too. The fourth one's pretty lazy. It has some fun moments, but it's like
I barely remember
going
it.
back to the scrapyard. All right,
Is the scrapyard, is that where like Freddy's furnace is? Is that where, or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to go back to that one.
Because I remember the furnace kind of set in the second one. Freddy's furnace, you know, he's always...
Yeah, it's also in the first one.
Yeah, so...
That's like the classic imagery is him hanging out down by the fire. You know,
Yeah.
that's like his lair in this one is an extension of that. It's just
Yeah.
it got a Pimp My Ride type of
Totally.
remake on it. You know, it's
He's
like-
rich now.
Yeah, Exhibit
He's
being
hanging-
to Exhibit
West
going up to
Coast
Freddy,
Customs.
just like yeah. So I heard you like killing children. So
we put TVs with Dick Cavett.
Yeah.
So you can kill people.
He's got his new claws, you know, tricked out with expensive steak knives and shit like that. He really
mean,
pimped his shit up.
the grossest image in this that Exhibit hooked him up with is his chest full of children. Like
Yeah.
the fact
We
that
heard
Freddy,
you like killing children.
Yeah, exactly. Like Freddy opening up his shirt and that special effects shot of like all the faces of children popping out and like moaning children like begging to be released from him is really disgusting and horrifying to me. Like that is a really amazing horror image. I love this movie. It's, you know, as I said earlier, like it's not the deepest text in the world and it's not as aesthetically pleasing as some other stuff we've talked about on this series so far, but it just has those simple genre pleasures I love so much. It's scary and funny and moving and just the ultimate like stacked cast and crew for a slasher sequel. So I'm going 4 bullets on this one. What about you?
I'm going to go 4 bullets as well. I feel like kind of similar to your love of Halloween 3. I have a similar love of this one too. Like I've always held it in high regard. I've always liked the teen rehab setting. You know, we need more teen rehab movies besides that. What is that, like indie drama? There was like one in like 2010.
Short Term 12, is that?
No, it's like more.
I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know.
There was like a book. I think Emma.
The Lord by John Carpenter?
There was,
No.
there
That
was a
is
Timothy Chalamet,
That
Steve
sucks.
Carell, like teen rehab.
Oh, Beautiful
Yeah,
Boy.
was that
Beautiful.
Teen
Oh no!
Rehab?
Wait. What about the one with Zach Galifianakis?
That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking.
Yeah,
Of. That's what I'm
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
of. I forgot what it was called, but
Due Date.
yeah, that, you know, that's
we're somewhere. We're circling it.
listeners write in and tell us the title of that movie.
I think it's
you'll win a
kind of a
prize.
funny story.
I think you're right. I think it is kind of a funny story.
Another win for Rob.
Yeah, but what's the title of the movie?
Oh, okay. Eddie and Costello over here.
When I do this podcast, it's like Abbott and Abbott.
Yeah, I love the kills in this one, and I feel like Freddy is the perfect balance of being like super demented, but also being funny. You know, saying, you know, putting bitch after every sentence. You know what I mean? He's
Man after my own heart.
He's updated his 80s vocabulary. You know, he's going a little bit more dice, you know, or something like that.
Oh man, can you imagine a Dice Man kill? Oh my God, he's on stage
Yeah.
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
In the tune nursery. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4. Watch out, you dumb whore. Oh!
Perfect. Yeah, see, that would be great if, like, in, like, the 7th one, yeah, Freddy's just like, and I got my comedian friend here, and he's going to roast you the whole time.
Because I know that Rob has said that Slumber Party Massacre 2 should have starred
He
Dice
should
as
have
the
started
killer.
because he looks like.
Yeah.
But
But
he's
also,
got the rockabilly.
that was just like, I think every slasher sequel should have Andrew Dice Clay. in
or
it.
like Christine. When I was watching Christine, I was like, imagine like because he starts wearing the leather jacket.
Yeah.
If he just turned into Dice.
I feel like a lot of late 80s
man.
slashers, like, they'll have, like, a teenage character who's dressed like
And
Dice. Who kind
interestingly
of acts
enough,
like one.
there is a Dice Man Nightmare on Elm Street connection because Rennie Harlan did the 4th one, and then he also did the Adventures of Ford Fairline. He was slacking. He was.
Yeah.
He
Rockstar
should have
Rennie.
connected him.
Rockstar Rennie.
Rob, any final thoughts and a rating on this one?
I'm going not 4 bullets. I'm going 4 razor claws. for Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I was so pleasantly surprised by the first time I watched this. I was at work and I watched it on a laptop, so it was not the ideal movie watching experience. So I was really happy to revisit it, and I feel like every time I rewatch a Nightmare movie, I like it so much more than I did originally. My favorite is still New Nightmare of all of them, including the first one. I think this might be my second favorite. I think I like it more than the original just because the original is just too self-serious in a way that I don't think works for it.
I can see that. Yeah, I love the original, but I can see that.
I still think it's a great movie, but like I much prefer like the campiness and Freddy's one-liners, doing gags and stunts.
Yeah, I put 3, 2, and New Nightmare above the original. That's
Wow.
that's my bold take. I really like 2 a lot too.
Yeah, 2 is awesome. Yeah. You relate to it.
Yeah.
JT, what about you?
I really like this.
Can't even respond to that.
I'm going 3.5 bullets. I think definitely on rewatch, I might go a little higher. It's one of those things. You're working through the series. I mean, based on the opinions of you gentlemen, it seems like 2 probably might be like up there among. Like it seems like after this point and New Nightmare probably in for weaker fare. But I want to sort it out, see what's there. Spend more time with my good friend Freddy. Kill some children alongside him, and I don't know. It's like again, I feel like I return to like just the pure aesthetic pleasures of like the sets and the mise en scène. That's just something that's always going to be fun about Nightmare on Elm Street movies because I don't know, it's just you get to explore weird, fucked up dream worlds, like especially right from the beginning where the little girl is on the trike in the the dank old Freddy house. There's just like I don't know, so much to love.
The shadow on that tricycle is like fucking 20 feet tall. It's just so crazy and like over the top, and I just love how hard they go. And it's a thing you see in a lot of horror movies where like the unreal scenarios in horror allow the aesthetic experimentation to go so much further than they would in other genres. But Nightmare, that series, just takes it so much further than other horror movies, and that's why I love them.
I feel like as far as the other ones, I don't think I've seen this one, but I feel like I've seen some light defense of the 5th one. I feel like there's some levers of the 5th one.
I think
worth
the 5th one is the
investigation.
only one I haven't seen.
I haven't seen
the
that
5th
one
and Freddy vs. Jason. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too.
Yeah.
I've seen Freddy vs.
We
Jason.
should do that.
That one's
sometime.
fine. You get price of admission.
Well, they're doing a matinee of Freddy vs. Jason this month at the New Bev, and I bought a ticket for it, but I just want to promote EFIS, which I am skipping Freddy vs. Jason to see our brother Nate's film.
Hell
EFIS.
yeah. As everyone should.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening. That's going to do it on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. You can always sign up on the Patreon to get an extra episode every single week for just $5 a month. And you can email us at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com. We got an email this week that seems to be one of those classic, speaking of film festival Q&A screenings, like our upcoming EVIS one. Seems like more of a comment than a question, but I'll read it anyway. This one comes from Dylan. It says, sad to hear your email well was dry, so I decided to throw y'all a line. Just wanted to say, really great episode on Hollow Man. Just watched it myself, so I was especially jazzed to hear the boys sit down with it. You nailed its strengths and weaknesses perfectly. Oh, thank you so much. The whole Paul V series in general was super good. Just need a follow-up where JT watches and talks about Showgirls 2, which I'm pretty curious about. I think we might need a Showgirls 2 update. I
Solo
think that is
episode.
true.
Yeah,
solo
no, I don't
episode. JT
understand why
solo.
me in particular.
Private
but-
cam
Because you're
episode.
the Showgirls super fan of the group.
Okay.
I thought because he was a hot piece of ass.
Maybe a little strip number too to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. The Mad Men series was great too, but it should have been longer. All right, Mr. Producer.
Hey, our email was dry. He's dropping some comments. We asked for it.
He then does give us some recommendations for Mad Men coded movies, as he says. Elia Kazan's Kirk Douglas starring The Arrangement, chief among them, which, hey, I will definitely check out the arrangement.
Sounds cool.
I'm pretty low on my Elia Kazan tally, probably for political
Very
reasons
woke.
because he's a
Yeah.
rat. You know.
Yeah.
I saw Baby Doll like a month ago. It was really good. I
Yeah.
might get on that Kazan train. You know.
He also encourages us to dive into more Jean Rollin. So keep up the good work. Thank you. And
Already way ahead of you, man. We know about Jean Rollin.
yeah, I mean, you could go back and listen to our episode with friend of the pod, Ethan Vespi from Bleeding Edge. We talked about a Jean Rollin movie on that one that I'm forgetting the title.
It's like The Virgin of the Dying.
Well, no, because that one has a non-porny title.
Oh,
That one's
okay.
just called like something. Oh, Lost in New York. That's what
Oh,
it was.
yeah.
Which is a great movie, and I really love it. But most of his movies are just called like the naked vampire who may or may not rape. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
That actually sounds a little bit better than his average fan. May or may not. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got to watch the movie to find
who
out.
are we going to believe in that case?
Exactly. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Of course, you can hit us with a question instead of a comment if you'd like at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com. But as you can see, anything you write, I'm going to read anyway.
Also, the praise. Yeah, send us praise.
yeah,
you know, send us.
I'm not
too.
crazy about just reading praise for the podcast, but you know what? I'll at least acknowledge it. I'll
Yeah,
acknowledge it.
it proves, hey, other people are into this. This is like a whole big thing, you know, for the listeners out there.
Look, people don't know it, but we have listeners.
Yeah, exactly. They like the show. They enjoy
People
it.
think that we're just spitting into the wind here, but we have at least, X amount of listeners.
Yeah, we have a number of people who listen to us.
A number of people. All right, goodbye, everybody.